Welcome everyone. We are live with our Mechanics Chess Social on Fridays. We have Abel Talamantes here, who is the director of the chess club. And Abel, would you like to announce our guest for today?
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining the broadcast. We have a very, very special guest, definitely a friend of the Mechanics Institute and our chess club. We have WIM Dr. Alexey Root. Thank you, Alexey, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Just before we start with everything, I just kind of want to thank you because you write a lot of articles, write for Chess Space, and you've really been following what we're doing and promoting, our broadcasts and the way we're trying to engage with the chess community. So I just wanted to thank you personally because it's been nice getting a lot of getting the love from you regarding our programs and our tournaments from you in your writing.
Yes, and I also wrote an article about mechanics for Spark Chess, where I write twice a month. I think that one was Leaving My Heart in San Francisco in reference to your club. That was on Spark
Chess. I remember that. And I think you referenced the broadcast with Paul, especially.
Yes,
and
that's right.
he was very excited about that. He was very happy. So,
well, he deserves it. He was so nice to me, and he's just a real star on your broadcast, in my opinion.
No, a lot of people share that opinion, and just for us, he's just almost kind of like a purist. That's sort of a pleasure to have around the club, especially with his little iconic photo of him and his brother, and that was 1973. So I mean that's a lot of history in the club. So you write for Spark Chess. You also write articles for Chess Space,
and sometimes for Chess Life Online, and
right.
So I have an article in the current issue of Chess Life, which is kind of special because that article was written with my son, William. We wrote about chess and dance.
Really? Is he a dancer?
So that's in the May issue. And of course, when we wrote it, people were still dancing in person, but hopefully they will be dancing and playing chess in person again soon.
And that's the current issue. Is that the issue that is coming out, or is that the one that just came out?
It's the May issue of Chess Life, I think.
It just shows that we haven't had time to look.
I think it's the current issue.
Yeah. See, I've been getting my Chess Life from the Mechanics Institute.
Oh no! So you don't have it? Oh,
but I know I can go online.
Yeah, it is this one because there's our bios. So yeah,
nice.
Very nice. Congrats. So when you write articles, kind of what's your take? Like do you have a common theme that you write about, or is it just, whatever by feel of something that comes up in the chess world?
Well, I have to say I tend to write about people I like about and admire, and institutions I like and admire. And so that's why the Mechanics has gotten highlighted so often, is because I really like what y'all are doing there. And Judith was so kind to me during the Pan Am and leading up to that. So I'm big fans of yours. And so it's more fun for me to write about things I like. So that's why I tend to pick.
I think we're the same way, right, Judith?
Yes.
We like writing about things we enjoy and like.
Well, so there are people who write about things they don't like, and that's probably true. A lot of the journalism or news stories is negative stuff that people don't like or complaints, but I more enjoy writing about things that I like.
Excellent. Now you were in the Bay Area when we had the with Judith organizing the international and the Pan Am Games.
Right. Yes.
Kind of what motivated you because of your association with the university? You want to tell us about that?
Well, University of Texas at Dallas has a very top-ranked college chess team, which always goes to the Pan Am. In fact, usually sends 4 teams to the Pan Am. And the director of the UT Dallas chess program is Jim Stallings. And if the Pan Am is in a city I want to visit, I usually start asking Jim a few months ahead, can I tag along with the chess team and go to this city that I want to visit? And I do try to make myself useful to the chess teams at the location. Like for sure, I write articles and try to drop UT Dallas's name into the articles, which isn't hard to do because they're usually one of the top teams in the tournament. So Yeah, he was gracious enough to let me tag along to the San Francisco Pan Ams. And that was when I believe Rade Milivanovich's last tournament as coach.
Yes.
And now our new coach is Grandmaster Julio Zadora.
And so Julio's the coach of the overall team there with UT Dallas?
Yes, so he coaches the team. I teach online courses about chess and education, and he was a student in my courses. So he is a graduate of UT Dallas. So it's really exciting to have him back on campus after being a student. And actually, in terms of people who've taken my online courses, Alejandra Ramirez, who's the coach at St. Louis University, and Christian Chirilla, who's the coach at University of Missouri, they all took my classes. So I feel like,
oh, nice.
If they remember me, it's like, oh yeah,
yeah,
I went to your course.
Yeah, Christian's a good friend of ours.
So for those who don't know, you have a PhD in education. So you have an educational research background, and so you are an active adjunct faculty at the university. How many classes are you teaching?
I teach 2 courses.
Okay.
And they're both about chess and education, so it's perfect for me.
And that's really amazing. And do you think for our viewers, if they are interested, are these courses only limited to university students, or can outside public register and take this course?
Yeah, I have had students from as far away as Qatar, for example, and from Virginia and from Seattle, Washington. So none of whom were UT Dallas students, but you can fill out a special application to just take the online chess courses, and there are people that do that. And the majority are UT Dallas students, but I've definitely had people from outside the university, and it is a 3 college credit course. And so if your some jobs will pay you more if you have additional credits. And if you happen to be a student at a different university, sometimes these 3 credits would transfer as like elective credit.
Yes, very important. And then for anyone who's full-time coach, maybe professional development, it can go into that category. So what's the course about?
Well, there's 2 courses. The first one is chess in the classroom, and that's writing lesson plans that include chess goals and educational goals, teaching those plans, and then reflecting on the teaching. And also they read, some of which are displayed behind me, giving them sample lesson plans and ideas. And then so that's kind of like the micro level course. And then the second course is either designing or improving a chess program. So for example, someone could write about the Mechanics Institute, like what it's doing right now, and then based on the readings, write about what to change or improve. And then that course, also, if they don't have an institution that they want to write about, they can write about issues in chess and education, such as women, girls and women, or people with disabilities, or cheating, because all of those are issues in not just chess, but in education.
Yes, that's definitely. And so in connection with your courses and your education and research background, as Abel mentioned, you also are a really prolific writer. Not only you have written many books, but you're also publishing articles on a regular basis. And these are all relevant topics and relevant articles, so it's very useful. So anyone, I'll try to collect a few links and copy paste it in the chat and in our write-up, but I strongly suggest. So one of the topic was about fair play. And what I liked is when we worked together a little bit and you wrote this article, is that you focus on the positive, like how to prevent cheating or what to do. And that really struck me and the approach. And so can you tell a little bit about that, your philosophy, and also who's your go-to person in terms of who are you asking around? I know a few other people. Can you mention them?
Well, for that article, you were one of the sources, and then also Jay Stallings contributed to that article. So, and then I just did some research online about what were general guidelines for promoting honesty in schoolwork, and kind of tried to extrapolate those ideas to chess as well.
Yeah.
I thought you had some really great ideas in that article, Judith, about how if you cheat, then you know it's not really your victory, and that you won't feel truly proud of it. I thought that resonated a lot, and particularly with me. So because I had my own admission at the end of the article about my touch move incident.
Yeah, you were really brave, and I've cheated in my life, and in Europe it's actually much more common. People do cheat a lot more in schools, in universities, and this is common. And in Europe, I feel that kids are helping. We helped each other, and it was no big deal. So here, it's a little bit different culture, but I think either way, people are trying to be honest and trying to do the right thing. And I like that the more parents learn about this, and I think that's what's most important. You're helping educating parents as well as kids, but parents, for example, and I think that's an important thing.
I think one of the things we're kind of learning now that we're doing a lot of online scholastic chess is, kids are learning about the temptations of it. But the other thing too is that we're finding is that, number one, a lot of kids aren't aware that some of the things that are doing are maybe considered a fair play violation. For example, we had a player who played under the sister's account, and played fair, didn't actually cheat in games, but used another account. And when we had a conversation, because it was something I noticed, I don't believe they realized that there was something wrong in doing that. And I said, well, people are assuming that they're playing the player that's listed on there and not somebody different. Just be aware of that. And they apologize. And that was a situation where I can see that to a child that may have not been thought out, the ramifications of doing that. And so we're trying to educate them. But the other part is that we're educating parents to be aware of instances like that, where they may not be aware that something your child might be doing might be considered fair play. So, we're trying to do our best to educate parents and kids about, to be alert, and for parents to sort of help us keep the games honest and keep everything fair.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I mean, I could certainly imagine a situation where maybe if you can't log into your own account for some reason, you forgot your password, and your sister says, just use my account. So, I could definitely see how that could happen.
Yeah, we've seen the other side too, where there was deliberate intent, but where we are noticing, and and this is the important thing too, is like when we do, when it's at a level where it's really about informing and educating, the more we do that, I think we're noticing less instances. And actually, Jude and I were emailing about that. We're seeing less and less of instances of fair play within our club, but we're also proactive when we find those to be pretty stern about it, and in some cases remove players. But I think with just educating parents and educating kids on the consequences and what to look out for, I think if everyone does that, I think we're going to see less instances of it.
And I thought your club was really smart not to offer cash prizes. I mean, why give that additional incentive for people to cheat? If they're just playing for the honor of it, then, and not for cash, then hopefully that reduces the instance of cheating.
Yeah, in the beginning, we really, we were kind of like looking at all options. And we thought as we built up the online community, it was important for us first to kind of establish kind of the base, kind of, the reputation, and just learning how online tournaments like work effectively. What we did is we think that there is going to be in future in going in that route on a smaller scale. So we reached out to Ken Reagan, who's someone you probably know.
Yes, yes. I've interviewed him a little bit for an article I did about Jennifer Yu on ChessBase. So yeah.
Yeah. So we reached out to him and we said, we're looking down the road to do a small entry fee with cash prize tournaments, but one of the things that's important for us is, the whole fair play. Would you be willing to, if we send you all the games from the event, to do a screening that's on top of chess.com screening, just to have a second layer of security around it? And he agreed to do it.
That's really nice of him.
Yeah.
Although he may also be able to use it in his own writing and research too.
And that's exactly the agreement that we have with each other. So we will be venturing into that area, but we think we have kind of the experience and the backing to deal with.
Well, and your players too. I mean, you have a really good sense of how strong your players are just because you know them in person, and now you've been watching them online for a couple months. So I think that's a big advantage. They aren't strangers to you.
Yeah, so we'll see. We're kind of excited about it, and I just think with the precautions we've taken with that extra level, and we've announced that these are the security precautions. We're not distributing the prize pool or submitting for rating until we get the last word from both of them. So we'll see where it goes, but hopefully we've kind of built up that trust within our community that this will minimize fair play issues.
So You're also the women's champion, U.S. women's champion. You got that title in 1989, if I'm correct. You also hold the women international title. So tell us, how did you learn chess, and how was your chess journey reaching that title and reaching that championship title, which is really awesome. So
thank you. It's been a lot of years now, but so my dad taught me chess when I was 5 years old, which is a pretty typical story to learn from a parent. But he was not a chess player. He didn't know castling or en passant, and but he did let me win for 4 years. Like every time we played, I guess I must have had a big ego or something and needed to win. So like he would throw games to me, but then when I was 9 years old, I asked him to play for real, and I was able to start defeating him. So then he just took me to the local chess club, and I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. So my first chess club was the Lincoln, Nebraska Chess Club.
And how was that club? Like, was it a large club? Was it pretty small, or?
Well, when I first started going to it, it met in the basement of the public library in downtown Lincoln. And I still remember the first time I walked in, this Gary Marks was showing the two-rook mate to two kids that were about my age, like trying to teach it to them. And I walked over and I just showed the answer, and they're all like, oh, someone who knows how to do the two-rook mate. So I was actually, there weren't that many children playing chess, and it was me and really those two and maybe a couple others. So pretty fast, I was the top player under age 13 in Lincoln, and then I became the Nebraska elementary chess champion, co-champion. And I was actually one of the top 50 players in the U.S. under age 13 because there were just not as many kids playing back then.
Yeah. And it's funny.
How many girls were there? Do you remember if you were one of the only girls, or do you?
Well, I think one of the really fortunate things is the brother and sister who were learning that two-rook mate were projects for Gary Marks. They were there kind of under his auspices, and he was the major tournament director and organizer for that club. And so the little girl's name was Angel Needfeld. And so that was the only other girl. And thank goodness there was another girl, because we became friends just because we were the only two girls. And in Lincoln, they had a tournament structure where there was the top under age 13 prize at a lot of tournaments, and then also the top girl prize. So what would happen at every single tournament is I would win the top overall, and Angel, who wasn't such a strong player, she would win the top girl just because she was the only other girl. And so finally the parents of the boys were like protesting. They're like, this is unfair. A tournament after tournament, there has not been a boy getting a trophy. So then they had a structure of top overall, top boy, and top girl. So there was a top boy trophy because of me.
It's funny how it worked sort of in reverse in that way. Like the boys were being excluded.
And they were shut out of every tournament.
And when did you learn about the titles? And were you aiming for a women's chess title, or what's your thought about the women's title in general? That's also a very interesting question, I think.
Well, just to continue a little bit with this early childhood theme. So I was the only girl who went with the group of kids from Omaha, Nebraska by bus. This is not a smart idea, but we took the bus to the first ever national elementary, which was in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
A Greyhound bus for like 3 days, to get to, it was a lot of days on the road to Washington, D.C. And so I stayed in the room with the 2 female chaperones, and then all the boys from Omaha stayed in a different room. Anyway, the upshot was I played the tournament, and there were 88 players. That was the first ever national elementary. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Players.
That's such
won
a
by
nice
Joel
experience.
Benjamin.
You were part of the very first national
That's
elementary.
right, 1976. Yeah. So there was a first girl and second girl prize, and the first girl, who was from a different community altogether, could have taken like top C, like they had class prizes instead, but wanted to give that to her teammate. So she was the first girl, and I got the second girl prize. And I was so annoyed. I was like, oh, this is such a meaningless prize. I don't even want it. But so at that, because, I was used to in Nebraska just winning the overall prizes, not girl prizes. So I had a little bit of a bias toward that type of prize. And because I felt like I could compete with boys and girls, or mostly boys, to be honest. There weren't that many girls, certainly in my area, playing. But I do think that there is a value to having girls' tournaments and women's tournaments, because I know socially, if there hadn't been that little girl, Angel, at my first chess club, and I had been the only girl there, I might not have stuck with it. It was actually important to me to have a friend that was same gender. So that made a difference to me.
And that's I think a very important message, because a lot of chess clubs are wondering, is it worth it? It's a lot of time and energy to organize girls only events, because the attendance is not so big. It takes time to build up, and I know a few of the girls initiative, people are working really hard on it. Mention Robin Ballon, Robin in DC. She has a girls hub there, and then Jennifer Shahadi and Andrea Botes, they do the girls isolated queen online now, and there's a girls online club, I think, on Thursdays. So there's a really cool things, but it takes a lot of time and energy to do these, because it takes time to build them up. So but it's needed, and year after year, decade after decade, that's the feedback, that girls only stick with chess if they know that there are other girls, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm
most of them.
pretty sure I would not have stuck with it if there hadn't been that other one. There was just one little girl, but she and I became friends, and I went over and stayed at her house. Became little friends. And if it had just been all the boys, I mean, I have to tell you, traveling on the bus from Omaha, we left from Omaha, Nebraska to Washington, D.C. with a bunch of boys. The chaperones offered to pay us a penny an hour to not talk, and I took because I was just tired of dealing with everyone else. So I didn't talk the whole way back and got my penny an hour, but then I got back and I tried to say hi to my parents, and I actually could not talk. I hadn't talked for so long, my voice had become hoarse. So they were like, "Oh my goodness, what happened to her?" But it would have been nicer to have a little girl along on that trip instead of just 6 boys from Omaha. But whatever.
And then your chess journey took you to get the women's international title. Was that a hard achievement, or what
actually,
you thought about it?
Because I won the U.S. women's in what was called a zonal year, I got my title just automatically from winning.
Okay. So the two came together. Okay, I actually didn't know that, because there's not a lot of events some events are awarding titles, but not a lot anymore, right?
Well, with the U.S. women's, it didn't award that title every year, but there used to be a system where we were a zone, and then I got to go play in the interzonal. And I also got the Women International Master title all at once. So that was exciting. I mean, I didn't really, you were asking about women's titles. I think I'm more interested in the girls and women's tournaments. I don't I don't know that the titles are that important, except for people are making them important. Like sometimes I'll get a discounted entry or a free entry because I have the title. So I don't know. I mean, it's all depending on what organizers kind of award, like, or value about whether a title is worth anything.
Yeah, I totally get the entry and everything. So, I don't know, Abel. Do you have any questions? I can continue. I have a lot of questions, but I want to give you.
I kind of have a curiosity just because of our background in scholastic chess and coaching. Because I'm looking at like some of the titles that you have like behind you. Kind of like, at what point did you sort of? I'm imagining at some point you kind of like went in the direction of, I really want to focus on chess and education and kind of like working. Applying learning philosophies to kids and having them learn chess. At sort of what point did that happen for you in your career where you kind of like directed your energy towards that?
That's a really good question. So when I was a high school teacher, and then I decided to get my PhD at UCLA. And when I was doing my student teaching before I became a high school teacher, I really thought that the best job in the world was there was a coordinator that sits in the back of the room when you're student teaching and they evaluate you. And I'm like, ooh, that is a great job. I want that job. So when I was going for my PhD, I had the vision in my mind of I would be like the person sitting in the back of the room, like writing notes about the student teacher and then meeting with the student teacher afterwards to give tips about how to improve their teaching. So that's kind of what I thought I would be doing with my PhD. And I actually tried to write my dissertation about something about chess, and my dissertation advisor said, no, there's not enough to do a literature review. You need to write about something else. So my dissertation was about history teaching, not about chess. So I really didn't think that I would be combining chess in my real career after I finished my PhD. But then Tim Redman, who was the founding chess program director at UT Dallas, realized that I was living sort of close to UT Dallas and that I had a PhD. And he's like, can you come? We'll find a way to make things work for you at UT Dallas. Come work at UT Dallas. So that's how I got there. And then he and I wrote a grant. There was a new organization called UT Telecampus, which actually no longer exists, but they were looking for ideas for courses that could be taught online. Mm-hmm. So we worked a grant for these chess courses that could be taught online, and it got funded at the $50,000 level. And then off and running with these courses ever since. I was hired by UT Dallas in 1999, started out supervising student teachers, which was my dream job. And then I got an even better dream job when that grant was funded. So since 2001, I've been teaching these online courses.
And you've done a lot kind of traveling around, right? Just to promoting, the books and kind of chess in education. Have you done anything or any writing about chess in schools? Like as chess as a having value and as part of like an academic curriculum?
Well, yeah, that's what my 7 books, most of them are about that. So I kind of covered all of it, like People, Places, Checkmates is about using chess to teach social studies, and The Living Chess Game is about using chess to teach fine arts. So that really is sort of my groove, actually.
Have you had any attempts in kind of trying to incorporate or have states kind of, look into possibly using some of what you've written as tools for teaching?
I do think that there are teachers out there that rely on my books when they're teaching in the schools. I'm not aware of a school system that has exclusively relied on them, but definitely, I mean, they're full of lesson plans that combine chess and other subject matters and goals. So there are certainly teachers out there using them.
So I know it can be a very hypothetical discussion, but like in Europe and in certain countries like Azerbaijan, and I know a few other countries, they in the United Nations, European Union, I know that they did try to work on putting the chess into the curriculum. And I know Kasparov and Judith Polgar or the two spokesperson at European Union to really promote this, and they actually approve something like that. So I always figure that it's a lot more political job and political agenda to push this, because once we have the support of the nation or the leaders, or maybe even just state level, right, then we can really make a difference and instate that. I know in Hungary, Judith actually did achieve that schools can choose as a curriculum. So they some of the schools in Hungary, not all, but some of the schools in Hungary, they do have it in the curriculum. So it's I think if there's research backing it up, if there are plans, good plans, all we really need is a few governors to sell them this project, right? And then have them try it out. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever tried it? And what's your experience with this kind of plans?
Well, that's a really good point. And the way I wrote my books is for teachers who are teaching those subject matters like history or art to just pick and choose some chess plans to supplement in their classroom what they're already doing. And I think what you're talking about is having chess as a standalone subject rather than incorporating it in a subject matter specialist teaching, like rather than having a history teacher have occasional lessons that have a chess theme. You're talking about chess being its own standalone subject.
That's
and
right.
That is being done in some parts of the U.S. already. I was fortunate enough to be invited to give an in-service at Success Academy in New York City, which Gerald Times is the director of.
Mm-hmm.
And the children in elementary school rotate between art, PE, chess, and music and library. So it's like one of the specials rotations. It is
Mm-hmm.
a subject. And then in their middle school, they can take chess as an elective. And so that's kind of more like what you're talking about, having it as its own subject where it's considered a worthy standalone subject.
Yeah, most definitely. But I think it's also then it would be good too when teachers are doing their professional development to kind of offer them this option or resources, right, to supplement, right?
I think, I mean, the more teachers who are comfortable with chess, the better. Because I remember when I went with these books to Texas Library Association has an annual conference. And so I would be at my publisher's booth, ABC Clio is my publisher, and people would walk by and I would say, I'm kind of try to be a salesperson. So are you interested in a book on chess and education? And librarians, many of whom are women, would usually recoil like,
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not interested in chess, and run the other way. So then I took a new approach, which was, do you have students who like to play chess? And then they'd always be like, well, yeah, I have lots of students who like to play chess. And then they would talk to me. So, so some teachers and librarians may be scared of it, but if you appeal to that their students are liking it and enjoying it and that it's good for their students, then they'll listen to you more, in my experience.
Yeah, and I guess that's the selling point of every chess after school program too, to approach the schools and say, do you think you will have kids who are interested in chess, and then we can go and push the program to establish, right?
Adding value to the school. Adding value to the school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Alexey, before we go, is there anything you want to share about kind of what you're doing, or any projects or any books coming up?
No, I don't have any books coming up. I'm always looking for article ideas, and I have to say that I do occasionally tune into your Twitch broadcast because you always give me great ideas. I mean, you and your co-hosts are also interesting, and you bring up, for example, a while back, I wrote an article about chess and yoga for Chess Life Online, and I featured someone who had talked about chess and yoga on your broadcast. So, like, don't worry, I might always be watching because I get great ideas, and I'm entertained by your broadcasts. So thank you so much for doing them, and it's really exciting to actually be a part of one.
I remember when he came on, and I thought it was just completely. As a matter of fact, that interview just came out of the blue. Like he was there, he was playing the Tuesday Night Marathon, and we brought him in, and then all of a sudden he's talking about chess and yoga, and then I looked up the website. I'm like, wow, this is kind of like a cool website. So like, you know, a lot of the cool things literally come out just out of nowhere, out of the blue. So, and that was one of them. So yeah.
I think that's something I miss about your in-person, that the difference between your in-person and your online broadcast is like with the in-person broadcast, I feel like there was that chance for someone to spontaneously walk in the room with Paul and Jim, Ede, you know, Paul Whitehead and Jim Ede, or with Paul and Judith, and contribute something that you didn't expect. Whereas when you're online, they can type to you in the chat, but I can't actually see them appear and make their contribution. So I do miss that. And I'm sure you must be missing the in-person as well.
But actually, you're giving us a really good idea. How about we would make it as an open Zoom call, and everyone who finished, they have to finish their games. Like,
right,
I don't like people when they're chatting and they play, but once they finish their game, we would provide the Zoom link and say hop on. Obviously, they will have to get approved, so I know that someone not just trying to hack our meeting, but if they give their full name and we admit, and then we can interview them. I think that's
I would like to see that. I think that's, you know,
I have to get it approved by Abel.
Interviewing people after their games too. So it'd be nice to see that. I guess I'm probably presenting you with a whole new technological problem about how to accomplish that. But
it's actually not that hard.
About the in-person, more than I like about the online, is that with the in-person, you only were following 10 games. And so when you hop back and forth between the games, I could actually keep in my mind like what had happened earlier in the game.
Okay.
Or to follow it. Now you've got like, I don't know,
a lot of rounds
games, and it seems a little more disjointed because you're jumping among all these different games. So I can't really, as a chess player, it's harder for me to get the theme of each game, and so. But then on the other hand, it's probably a big thrill for your players that, who knows, like everyone has a chance to get highlighted. But from a viewer's point of view, it's a little more challenging that you aren't just focusing on 10 and getting to see how those come out. So that's just from a viewer's, but I can definitely understand as a player, they'd probably get thrilled when their game gets mentioned even briefly, right?
Yeah, you know, and there's a lot of entertainment in it because of the rapid and blitz format. You know, there's a lot of drama that can ensue from game to game.
5 rounds versus 1 round per day. So
yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I guess it's just harder to get a sense of continuity and analysis, which I really liked from the live broadcast. You know, you could follow this game over the 2 hours, and then the players come in and they share their thoughts on it. And it might be harder if you're doing all. What is your time control that you're going to be using?
Well, we are using Gaming 10+2.
Yeah,
that's for the Tuesday.
Actually,
are you going to do any, like, maybe if you did some slower ones, like when you get to the prize money tournaments or something. But I mean, if it was like Game in 30 or Game in 60, then you could have the people come in afterwards and do their interview. But I know with those faster tournaments, as soon as they finish one game, they have to play another one. Like there's no for them to come talk to you.
Actually, that could be cool if we did an event where when the games are over, we can just email the player, hey, here's a Zoom link, come on and talk about it. That could be cool.
Yeah, like maybe at the end of the tournament.
Yeah. Oh, right. I have a plan. It's actually very, very
good. Oh, you got a plan. All right, well, then I will tune in and watch.
Judith always has plans.
It's so inspiring because I would have never thought about it, but you pointed out a really good angle, and it's really real cool. So you will be credited if it happens.
And I just want
watching if it happens. I'll be excited. Yeah. No, I really did like seeing the players talk about their game.
No, me too. And when we had Natalia and Rost on, that was one of the best new thing in the past few weeks, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Just a quick shout out to Rico Atkins. That's chess yoga.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
And
it was all because of your broadcast. That's how I got the idea for my chess and yoga article. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Let me see if I can dig up some other chess and yoga people. So thank you for that.
And his website, chessyoga.com, like I said, when he was doing the broadcast, I'm like, what is chess and yoga? And I looked it up, and he's got the coolest logo. It's like one of the coolest logos ever. So chessyoga.com, check it out. It's like,
and actually cool. There was another chess yoga person I had been familiar with, Jeff Bulington, runs yoga at the Franklin Chess Center. So I already, but I had her, but then seeing Rico, it's like, 2 weeks an article. This is good. I could go with this. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and Rico's a mellow, funny guy.
I love your energy there at Mechanics.
Yoga.
Give me so many ideas.
And the other topic that I really enjoyed was your Formula One article, because we ourselves are Formula One fans.
Right, yeah.
And then Guy Argo is a regular player at our tournaments on over the board in the club, and he's a big Formula One fan. So everyone, if you guys want to read Alexey's cool articles, just search for it and it will pop up, and we'll also include a little bit of link collections, but it's really cool.
That was my first race that I went to, was because of that article. So it was a really neat opportunity for me, something new.
One of the biggest heartbreak of this year, I don't know when they're gonna start up, and it's gonna be definitely cool.
Well, I thought NASCAR already started, right?
They did start last week,
fans, but I don't know when Formula One will start racing without fans.
I don't see why they can't actually. Just
they are talking about it, and it's gonna be obviously closed for public, and they probably gonna do 2 races a weekend to catch up. So. I don't like.
What about? Do you all have a sense of? Are you all still on lockdown?
We are.
In San Francisco? Wow.
Okay. So I think California is doing the phases per governor. I don't precisely know about the city itself. I know the neighboring counties are following. So I know the county that I'm living in phase 2, early stages, phase 2. So slower, everything will opening up with social distancing, but we don't know yet when the institute's going to be.
Yes, San Francisco County will be among the slower ones to fully open up.
Mm-hmm. Well, when it finally reopens, I'll have to have an excuse to come see you in California.
Yes. Yeah, well, when the time is there, we will be there.
And we have one of the new board members of Mechanics, Jim Eade. He's a big supporter of chess and the women's chess, and so I know for a fact that he's working on some opportunities.
Well, that would be truly exciting. So I mean, he and I had talked about women 15 over tournament, and you have one of the very best 15 older women players in the country playing as a regular in your club.
Natalia. So that's the plan. There's a lot of work that needs to be done for that in order to make that happen, but I think he's determined, and we are determined to help him if that's.
But the thing is, all that gets because of coronavirus, that just gets pushed back. I mean, there's obviously higher priority tournaments that aren't being held right now. And, probably U.S. Chess has to catch up on higher priority ones like the U.S. Championships first, and then start doing these newer, maybe lower priority ones.
We actually haven't even proposed it to them. So they actually first they have to approve the whole concept of establishing, and then once that's done, hopefully we will be able to get support. But once that's done, we can work on it. But we had to cancel the junior cadet too. We were about to host that, and we had to cancel that.
I know. Do you have any predictions about when over the board chess will resume?
My guess, and it's hard for us because the decision isn't really up to Judith and I. It's the institute as a whole. But if I had to venture a guess, and this is just a guess, I would think that over the board probably wouldn't be till I mean, honestly, like over the board tournaments, probably August, probably, and then September, and then even then we have to come up with ways. I mean, we already know that we're going to have to do physical distancing with regards to spacing players. So we probably
How
have.
does that? How would that work across a
well,
sport? Or
there's two ways, right? We can
Okay.
distance from between tables, but there's the real issue of people being across from each other. And one of the things that has been in discussion, whether if we required masks and if we handed out disposable gloves for the players the same way we would hand out a score sheet and pens, would that be something that would work? And, you know, we're also looking to see if the U.S. Chess Federation comes up with guidelines that, you know, but of course they also have to connect with, you know, the state and local officials with regards to, I'm in the middle of a call right now. State and local officials with regards to you know, what is acceptable. So I think it's sort of unknown how that's gonna work. So we're just kind of like in a holding pattern, sort of. But we're talking about the ideas, and we'll see what people think. But my guess is that if we use mask, gloves, that's something that I think should work, but like, it's going to be up to public health officials. And
I did write an article for Chess Space called "Thank You for Not Smoking and Not Shaking Hands," because I'd been wanting for a long time to write about smoking in chess, and then it occurred to me, well, because it used to be when I was growing up, people smoked at the board.
Yeah,
that was fun, you
know? We've heard from Paul.
People smoked at the board, and but that changed. And another tradition that was so common when I was a kid is shaking hands before and after a game. But my analogy was, well, we got rid of smoking at the board. Are we also going to get rid of shaking hands at the board because it's a health risk? So it was kind of a for fun article, like just like making wild speculation, but it was a fun thing to speculate on. Like so I did a little poll: what should take the place of a handshake? You know, if you can't shake hands anymore. So it was just a fun idea to explore. But you know, what a sad situation that we're all in with this disease, and you know.
Well, hopefully we are seeing the end of the tunnel. Hopefully,
yeah.
Slowly back to normal, what we used to call normal. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for what both of you are doing to continue chess. I mean, mechanics is really amazing. I'm actually featuring you in an upcoming article as well, but it just hasn't been published yet. I've been waiting on it, but just featuring you because of all you do each week for your players. It's really pretty inspiring. And one thing that I particularly like is that you have your titled players like Nick Fermian and Elliot Winslow and analyze games from your tournaments. Yeah. I mean, what a treat for the players. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Hopefully that article will come out sometime. I wrote it a month ago, but hopefully it'll come out. And then I'll send you the link.
No, we appreciate that. And, you know, one thing we've always said is that, you know, we recognized early on how important it was for us to kind of keep our chess community and our chess culture together, especially now that a lot of people are at home. They really look to the chess club as something that's kind of a positive thing amidst chaos, right? So we're really proud that we've been able to keep our
that going to come out?
Hi guys.
But anyway, thank you so much for having me.
No,
I know I can look for this Twitch interview. You're going to archive it at your mechanics Twitch at some point. I can look for it there.
Yeah, Judith does that right away. So I think
okay.
if you look at it on our YouTube site, because that's where we upload it, you should be able to see it pretty close, like within a few hours.
Did we get any comments at all during this, or was it all just silent?
No, it's all silent this time. That's the usual thing. I have to double check. So my computer battery died for 30 seconds. I don't know if you guys realized I went offline.
I realized it was less than a minute. Yeah.
So it was less than a minute.
Well,
I don't know if we are still streaming or not. I'm double checking right now. But you never know.
Live TV. This is what happens.
Yeah. Well, I imagine a lot of people watch it later. I know a lot of times when you do Tuesday Night Marathon that was live, where I am in Texas, it got really late at night. So I would just watch part of it live and then catch the rest of it on YouTube the next day.
Yeah, and we think too with even the Chess Social, we have it at noon. A lot of people look for it because then we also put the link in our newsletter when it comes out tomorrow and things of that nature. And we'll put the link for this one also in tomorrow's.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining
so much. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and X out then. Bye-bye.
Sounds good.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And tune in to the San Francisco Scholastic Championship tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m., twitch.tv/mechanicschess.
Sounds good. We are a little bit wicked, so anyway, with the setup. Anyway. Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.